So I failed. I was so excited to make a video for you on either 150 days of meditation or 200 days of meditation. Either way, I was aiming for a 365-day streak and it didn't happen. So I made a video on this, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was at the 100-day mark after 100 days of 2019, called I Meditated for 100 Days. And at that point I had a perfect streak in 2019. It was the first time that I had ever meditated that many days in a row. And I was feeling so positive. I had had some days where it was difficult to sit down and meditate, where, you know, either because of how I was feeling in terms of my mental health or my physical health, or just because I had such a crazy, insane, busy day and people around and all of that. No matter what, I convinced myself to sit down for at least 5 minutes, and usually more like 10 or 15 or 20, and meditate. And I felt like there was absolutely no reason why I couldn't keep doing this for the entire year and have this kind of perfect score, right? Like have this perfect streak, this 365-day streak on Headspace or in whatever app that I am recording this in. And a couple of weeks ago, I failed. I did not meditate. And the worst thing about it is that there wasn't even a good reason for me to not meditate. I just forgot. I had a day where I was a bit tired and lethargic, I think. And I got up and I did do yoga, but for whatever reason, like it was a Saturday, I had other things to do. I can't remember if I went for a run or not, but I was just pottering around the house. I was doing various things and I kept putting off the meditation. I thought, it's fine. I'll do it, later on in the afternoon. And it never even occurred to me that I might forget to do it. And that night, I was going out to a party, and ordinarily my phone, like if I have forgotten to do my meditation, my phone will actually remind me to do it at 9 o'clock at night. So it'll catch me before I go to bed, and I'll look at it and go, oh yeah, I didn't actually meditate today, right, I'll do it. So I think I also felt like I had that safety net. And I went to the party and I did a thing that actually was probably inspired by a recent thing that I've been trying called deep work. I think because of that change that I've been trying to implement in my life, where I've been trying to get better at being more focused, I've been trying to get better at being less distracted, more in the moment, not constantly on my phone, not constantly flitting around from thing to thing. And I left my phone in my bag on the other side of the apartment, and I ignored it for the entire night. I just said to myself, no, I don't want to be looking at my phone. There may have been somebody that I was wondering if they were going to get back to me. I honestly can't remember, but I just was like, no, you know what? The phone is in my bag. It's on the other side of the apartment. I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to leave it alone. And so when it hit 9 o'clock and my phone notified me and reminded me that I hadn't meditated, I wasn't looking at it. And so the night wore on and I drank quite a lot too much gin, to be completely honest with you. And I got to a point and I wasn't feeling well actually, which actually I think was more to do with the fact that I had a cold. I was coming down with something as well. And I was kind of drinking water in the kitchen and having this big, deep, meaningful conversation with a friend in the way that you only can in a kitchen after midnight when, you have had a bit too much to drink and everything feels a bit heavy and overly meaningful. And so I was having this really intense conversation with a friend of mine, and then eventually I was like, okay, I feel well enough to go home at this stage. I'm gonna call a taxi, I'm gonna go home. And I took out my phone and looked at it, went to call a taxi, and saw the notification saying, have you meditated yet? And I just sat down on the floor and started crying. I was explaining this story, I was telling this story to some friends of mine later, and one of them had been in another room and they'd seen that I was kind of having a moment out in the corridor, and she thought, okay, that looks really intense, but she's talking to those guys and I'll just let them, deal with it. They seem like they're looking after her, I don't want to crowd her, whatever. And when I explained to her that the reason I was sitting on the whole floor crying was because I'd forgotten to meditate, she was like, are you for real? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I'm not really interested in the fact that I'm not perfect. I'm not really interested in the fact that I slipped up and I forgot to do a thing that I promised myself and all of you that I was going to do for the entire year. because I just found it so interesting that my reaction was to sit down on the hall floor and start crying at 4 a.m. because I'd forgotten to meditate. I think we put ourselves under just so much undue pressure sometimes with certain kinds of lifestyle choices and certain goals that we have, and we really kind of turn these changes that we want to make in our lives and these habits that we want to cultivate, we turn them into these ridiculous goals and these kind of sticks to beat ourselves with when we feel like we have been less than perfect. And I think particularly when we are sharing this journey online, if we're using apps to kind of count the days, and with me, I knew that I wanted to be making those videos. I had that video in mind, like that 200-day video, and then at the end of the year, the 365 days, I could see it, I meditated for 365 days. And it kind of adds that extra kind of social pressure onto you to kind of be perfect, to aim for that perfection, because that outsiders, when they see that, they'll think, oh wow, I've never been able to meditate for that many days in a row. That's so impressive, right? And we want to be impressive. We want to impress ourselves, we want to impress others, we want to be perfect. And I mean, admittedly, the alcohol didn't help, definitely kind of exacerbated the situation, but I genuinely think if I had been stone cold sober, I would have had a very similar reaction. I think I still probably would have overreacted. I still would have been upset. I still would have been intensely disappointed with myself, and this horrible feeling of just not being able to take it back. It was already 4 a.m. There was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't go back in time. I couldn't fix it. And it was while I was sitting there on the floor and my friends were kind of saying to me, like, so what? It doesn't matter. Just do it twice tomorrow. And I just kept kind of pushing back against that mentality and saying, no, I've fucked up. I fucked it up now, and it's not perfect. I've broken this streak. And I think that it's actually that experience and having that reaction has maybe taught me something more valuable than the entire experience of having meditated for, I'm not sure how many cumulative days it has been now. It's been like over 150, right? Because this all happened right before I hit 150 days, I think. And at this point, it's been a lot of days. I've done a lot of meditation this year, and it has changed me. It has definitely grounded me. It definitely makes me feel more connected to my spirituality. Sitting in front of the altar for that amount of time every day, it's really meaningful to me. And I definitely feel like I'm gradually building up a skill and gradually building up this ability to kind of alter my state of consciousness and all of that. And it's all been wonderful. But I actually think that moment taught me more than all of those kind of, I don't know how many minutes, thousands of minutes. No, that can't be right. Is that right? I can't do the maths right now in my head because I'm facing a camera, and that way when the camera's off, like your brain can function, and when it's on, it absolutely can't. Yeah, it would be thousands of minutes. And this one moment just taught me so much, because it just really made me wake up and realize that it's so easy to slip into feeling like you're doing something so that it can be perfect. That you're doing something for the sake of the streak, for the sake of being able to tick it off in your calendar every single day and not miss a day. But that's not why you're doing it. Like, the reason that I decided to meditate was, and to do it every single day in 2019, was to get into the habit. It was to form the habit, form the routine. It was to change my mind. It was to change my daily life. It was to spend more time at the altar, to spend more time in an altered state of consciousness, to spend more time feeling connected to divinity. And I have achieved all of that. I'm going to continue to achieve all of that because, I got back on the horse the next day and I kept going. And now I've been meditating again for I don't know how many days since. I've got a new streak on my app, and sure, it's not as big as it was, and it won't be 365 days by the time we turn over into 2020, but that shouldn't matter. That shouldn't be what I'm aiming for. And I think it's a careful balance, really, isn't it? Because it's like having that goal of having the perfect streak, it motivates you to actually do it every day, right? It helps you actually not make excuses, even on the days when I'm really, really busy. Like, it's been so valuable for doing that, for even on the days when I'm feeling terrible, even on the days when I'm having a crazily busy day, it's forced me to kind of go, okay, no, I don't want to break the streak. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And that has been valuable, but at the end of the day, I feel like if I'm going to beat myself up for missing a day, I've kind of missed the entire point of meditation. I've kind of missed the entire point of taking that time for myself, taking that time to be centered, to be connected, to be in that altered state of consciousness, to feel more spiritual and so on, if I'm going to then beat myself up for not being perfect. And it also made me realize that in some ways I had already broken the streak, because there had been days when I basically cheated, when I kind of sat down and did 5 minutes meditation, but I was totally distracted. It didn't really count. Like, I basically hadn't done any more meditation on those kind of, let's say 2 or 3 days in the kind of 150 days. I basically hadn't done any more meditation in those 2 or 3 days than I had on this one day where I didn't, open the Headspace app and press play. But somehow that didn't count. Like somehow because I actually opened the app and pressed play, I still had the right to kind of tick it off and to keep that kind of chain going. And that was a bit of a wake-up call too. So I feel like the wake-up call that I've had has been kind of twofold. It's been, A, let myself fail, let myself, it's okay to let yourself not do the thing, not be perfect, not achieve this perfect streak that you're aiming for, not do the thing that you're doing to quite the standard that you were hoping for, have to give yourself a day off. Like, it's okay to do that, because all of these things that we're trying to incorporate into our lives, they're there to make us better people, right? They're there to teach us and to help us grow and to help us just be happier and just perform better in life. And there's absolutely no point in beating yourself up for not doing that perfectly. But on the other hand, I think it's actually also really encouraged me to try harder with my meditation, to actually make the effort to be present and to be mindful during those minutes. Because at the end of the day, who am I really kidding? If I sit down with the app and let it play and just kind of sit there and think and let my mind wander and just don't really make any effort whatsoever to change my mental state or to be aware and conscious of what it is that I'm doing and where I'm at. I'm not saying that it's not meditation unless your mind is completely still and calm and quiet. Like, absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I really don't think that in order to meditate, it has to be this perfect silence and stillness in your mind. I mean, who can do that really? Like, realistically, very, very few people have that kind of control or that kind of ability. And that's not really what you're aiming to do with meditation. Like, the point is to be mindful. The point is to be making an effort to kind of focus on the breath or whatever it is that you're focusing on, right? So if I'm not even making that effort, if I'm not even being mindful and drawing my mind back to wherever it is it's supposed to be, then am I really meditating, or am I just pressing play on an app and pretending that I'm meditating? So yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot from this experience. I've just learned how ridiculous it is to sit down on your friend's hallway floor and cry because you forgot to meditate. And I've also learned how ridiculous it is to sit down on a meditation cushion, press play on an app, not do anything, and then feel like you can say that you meditated for 20 minutes. So yeah, that's where I'm at with all of this. I am absolutely still committed to this. I am still absolutely hoping to have 364, is this year a leap year? No, 364 days of meditation this year in 2019. And if it's 363 or 360 or even less, that's okay, because the intention was there, and the fact that I'll have meditated that amount of time in a year is still amazing. But at the same time, I want to make those minutes count. I would rather meditate for 5 or 10 minutes, 4 days in a week, really mindfully and really effortfully and really, being really conscious and aware and really turning up for myself, rather than do it, every single day for 20 minutes, but not actually really making any effort to change anything in my mind or to do anything different or to challenge myself at all. So yeah, I'll be making more videos on this as the year goes by. I'm not sure when exactly, whenever it feels like it's worth making another video about this, I will. Please do chime in the comments below with your experiences or any questions you have or suggestions that you have for this year. Maybe I'll try again in 2020 and see if I can do, a perfect 366 days, because that will be a leap year, won't it? I've lost track. Maybe not. No, maybe not. Maybe not for another few years. Maybe it was did we have a leap year in 2018? who cares? However many days it'll be in 2020. But yeah, for now I'm just I'm finding just so much that I've learned about myself and about this process just from failing.